So Geno Smith was asked about his future given how poor this season has kind of went. And some people are saying the way he answered this question kind of implies he's not going to be with the Raiders. Maybe Geno Smith knows he's not going to be with the Raiders. I want you guys to listen to this, and then we'll talk about this on the other side.
My future is, what God's right for me. I'll focus on the day-to-day and getting better every single day as a player. That's all you can do as an NFL player. You can never look too far ahead or even too far behind. The whole your future thing, I got a bright future. I know that for sure. But, as far as, what I have to do here is lead this team and focus on, today's practice and how we can execute and get better, prepare ourselves to go up against a tough team on Sunday.
So what a lot of people are saying is the way he said, the whole future thing, I have a bright future, that's what I know for sure. People are saying that comes off in a way where Geno Smith feels that he may not actually be the Raiders quarterback. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, man, a couple weeks back, if you guys had asked me if Geno Smith's going to be the Raiders quarterback, I would have said yes. And this was from something that I had actually heard. I'm not so sure at this point anymore. I'm not so sure as we go forward because we've gotten a lot of leaks that have kind of come out, which kind of implies that John Spytek and Pete Carroll are pulling in opposite directions. For all we know, John Spytek could feel that I want Mendoza or Moore or Nussmeier or whoever it ends up being, right? For all we know, John Spytek wants to get a rookie quarterback. And I feel like based off of what we're kind of hearing from Geno Smith, and just a general vibe, and I know other people have kind of stated this as well, that the Raiders will be drafting a quarterback. I do feel like at this point the Raiders will end up drafting a quarterback, and I'm pretty sure Geno Smith kind of feels that as well. Now, another thing to kind of keep in mind from a contract perspective, the Raiders could definitely get out of this, man. It's a $26.5 million cap hit if Geno Smith's on this roster. That's what we'll end up paying him. If we cut him, we lose 18.5 of that $26.5 million. But we still save $8 million. And, if Geno Smith is not going to be your quarterback, if you're going to go with the rookie quarterback, saving $8 million could basically get you a starting caliber interior offensive lineman. It could get you potentially bring back Malcolm Koonce. So that $8 million you save by moving off of Geno Smith could actually benefit the Raiders. And another thing to kind of keep in mind, right? If you draft a rookie quarterback, I'm not for starting rookies. I think you should not put that pressure on them. You should let them sit, wait 8 to 10 weeks. And then if they want to, at that point start, you put them in. That way there's no pressure and they can still develop. And with that, if you move off of Geno Smith and say, hey, we're not going to start the rookie, we have Kenny Pickett under contract. Aiden O'Connell, I believe technically still has one more year. Don't quote me on that. This might actually be his 4th year. So you can still have a veteran quarterback to kind of start the season. If you bring a rookie quarterback in, chances are you're not winning a Super Bowl that year. But one of the things you can do is you can develop that quarterback and not throw him in where you put so much pressure on him. You're 1-8. Throw him in at that point. There's no pressure. You're out of the playoffs. I think for the Raiders, it's going to be the smart way to potentially move forward. So we'll see if the Las Vegas Raiders truly are going to move off of Geno Smith at this point. Again, 5 or 6 weeks ago, I would have told you guys it's not happening from what I've heard. I'm not so sure at this point. I think there's a real chance when Raiders end up drafting a quarterback. Geno Smith and his response and just kind of how he's been talking, and even more than that, you have all the things that have kind of happened at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if Geno's not here, but I also want to just kind of throw this out there. If the Raiders go into the offseason and say we're moving off of Geno Smith and we're drafting a rookie quarterback, keep in mind, you will not have another, top 5 pick, most likely as you kind of go forward. And if you draft a rookie quarterback and then say, hey, with our 2nd round pick, we're going to take another wide receiver like bech, we're going to take a cornerback in the 2nd round, you're not going to have success without really revamping the offensive line. Chances are that quarterback's going to bust out unless you really fix this entire team. You have your left tackle in Kolton Miller. You have Jackson Powers-Johnson, who's your starting center, or should be your starting center. And then you also have Charles Grant, who I think should start at right tackle. I think he has a ton of upside. He will struggle a little bit, but I think in 2 or 3 years, I think he'll be a really good right tackle. I think for the Raiders, the smart thing to do is to say we need to get another guard, and let's take one in the 2nd round. We saw how Jackson Powers-Johnson has kind of worked out. I also think, if you take a wide receiver or a cornerback in the 2nd round, they don't always pan out. That's a high bust position, right? Especially in the 2nd round. As opposed to if you say, hey, we're going to go out there and we're going to bring in a offensive lineman, a guard specifically in the 2nd round, usually works out. So again, for the Raiders, build the trenches, bring in those type of players. It's going to be the best way forward. And I think that's the only way a rookie quarterback will actually make sense for the Raiders. We have a couple other things I want to talk about. So yesterday I had made a video where Chip Kelly basically responded to Pete Carroll. So I'm not going to get into all of it, but Pete Carroll put his reports out the day Chip Kelly was fired through Tom Pelissero and Deanna Rossini. Tom Pelissero said, hey, Chip doesn't really know how to run plays. He's calling the wrong plays. He's calling plays that weren't even technically installed. And Deanna Rossini said that, hey, it was Tom Brady that hired Chip Kelly. Again, this kind of takes the blame away from Pete Carroll. And Chip Kelly responded about 3 or 4 days back. And Chip said, hey, this offense is essentially not even my offense. This is Pete Carroll's offense. So Pete Carroll was then most recently asked about this in today's presser. Someone asked him, head coach Pete Carroll, on the report that he essentially told Chip Kelly what to run, and there was a disconnect between them. Pete Carroll said the following. He said, Chip Kelly's a tremendous football coach, and we communicated well. We just needed to make a change. This, for the first time, is the grown-up answer by Pete Carroll. This right here is the answer that he should have been giving, even in other moments where he was asked specific questions. And I can't think of them on the top of my head, but he's been asked questions this season, and he'll answer them in a way where I feel like it just doesn't make sense to say those type of things to the media. This right here makes sense, right? To basically say what Pete Carroll's saying right here. This to me makes the most sense. And I think one of the issues I've had with Pete Carroll is one, the leaks, right? He's putting all this stuff out, which I don't agree with him putting this stuff out the way he does. And then of course the other is just kind of how he handles questions. I think it's smart to move off of Pete Carroll unless John Spytek's 100% sold on Pete. But also for John Spytek, I think it's going to be important to kind of figure out, if are there other coaches leaking things? Are there players potentially leaking things? I think that's going to be important to kind of get under control as we kind of go forward. Also, I want to see if Chip Kelly can bounce back as a coach, because that's going to tell us in the long run if Chip Kelly was the issue or if it was Pete Carroll. I wouldn't be surprised if Chip does get another opportunity at some point. Maybe it'll just end up being in college. But as we're talking about Pete Carroll and something I like, we'll get into something I don't like. And that's going to be talking about Kolton Miller and his ankle. So Pete Carroll was asked a question specifically about Kolton Miller. Jesse Merrick puts this out there. Raiders head coach Pete Carroll on whether or not their record would dictate if they tried getting Kolton Miller back out there if his health permits. Pete Carroll said it doesn't impact mine, no. So basically what Pete Carroll is saying is if Kolton Miller is healthy, we're going to play him. Even though we have 4 or 5 games left at this point, none of these games truly matter. Pete Carroll is saying we're going to basically push him to get him back on the field. Right? And he even put it out there saying that the trainers are doing everything they can to get Kolton Miller back on the field. I think this is an awful way to approach the rest of this season. I think it'd be much better if the Raiders say, hey, we're not giving up on DJ Glaze. Let's just let him finish the season. And let's put Charles Grant at left tackle, vice versa. Say, hey, we like Stone Forsythe. We think he has more upside than DJ Glaze. But then put Charles Grant at right tackle and let him play. There's no point of bringing back Kolton Miller and him potentially getting hurt even more. Joe Walt had the same exact injury that Kolton Miller had, or a very similar injury early on in the season. He came back, and guess what? He re-hurt that same ankle. He was out for the season. The Raiders are handling Kolton Miller wrong, in my opinion. Pete Carroll's going to say, hey, we care about winning, right? We don't care about what the media feels. We don't care about the draft and those type of things. We care 100% about winning and being a good football team. I think that's the wrong way to look at this, man. I really do think you need to figure out which players are good and which players are not good. And you need to figure out which rookie players and young players can actually start for this team, especially at right tackle. Like, to me, Charles Grant is one of the most important players for the Raiders, and for them to figure out if he's good or not. And you will be able to see within the first 4 or 5 games and kind of how he progresses if he's a good football player. And again, offensive tackles aren't found usually in round 2, 3, 4, 5, unless they're developmental guys the way like Bernard Ryman and Charles Grant were. But you don't usually find guys that are ready unless you take them like the top 10 picks. And again, I think for the Raiders, if you don't find out if Charles Grant's the right guy and you end up drafting a tackle, well, what if Charles Grant goes somewhere and ends up being a really good offensive tackle? So again, for me, I think the Raiders to potentially push to bring Kolton Miller back is the wrong way to kind of go. And, keep in mind, the decision's 100% on Pete Carroll, not John Spytek. If it was up to Spytek, he may say, hey, Kolton, you're good. You're done for the season. We're going to go forward with the rookie. But, again, this is Pete Carroll's decision, so we'll see what ends up happening. Finally, and this is something I just want to kind of sit here and talk a little bit about. There was a question that Ross here asked me, but this is something that I've actually seen trending on Twitter. And if you put in Thayer Munford's name right now, you'll see 2 or 3 tweets from guys that cover the Raiders where they're making comments saying Thayer Munford's having so much success, and yet here are the Raiders making these bad decisions, letting guys like Munford walk. And it's kind of wild. Now, I'm not making this segment to trash Thayer Munford. I truly do hope that down the line he ends up having a lot of success and he becomes a really good football player. But there is a lot of misinformation out there regarding Thayer Munford at this point. First and foremost, Thayer Munford's not a starter for the Patriots. He's not a guy that's playing, 80, 90, 100 snaps for the New England Patriots. In fact, he just got to the Patriots. After he left the Raiders, he actually went to the Cleveland Browns first. And he was on their practice squad. They released him. Now he's with the Patriots. And he came in for 6 snaps against in this most recent game for the Patriots. 6 snaps that he played. And again, someone posted it. I forget exactly who it was. Someone posted it basically saying, hey, Thayer Munford's on the New England Patriots. He's having success. And yet you have the Raiders essentially who released him. Munford's played 6 snaps, and they were all as a 6th offensive lineman, right? As an extra offensive lineman. And the thing is the guy's actually been losing some of those snaps. It's not like he's dominating out there, right? So I just wanted to kind of clarify that really quickly because obviously Ross kind of asked the same question. He says, you're probably watching the game, and our old friend Thayer Munford is playing a nice role for the Patriots. So again, just wanted to kind of answer that. I've watched the tape. It's not that good, to be honest with you guys. Thayer Munford is the type of player that he is. We'll see what the Raiders do as they kind of go forward at, within their own team, within their own offensive tackles. Hopefully they're able to figure it out. I'd roll forward with Charles Grant, but we'll see what Pete Carroll ends up doing. I hope you guys all have a great day, man. The Raiders still do have a game kind of coming up here. I know a lot of people have kind of checked out. And, there's a lot of people that are like Kings fans, Warriors fans, Lakers fans. They're probably enjoying basketball a lot more this season than they are probably the Raiders. And maybe not Kings fans, but like Laker fans, Warrior fans are probably enjoying it a lot more. So I hope you guys continue to enjoy that, man. Continue to enjoy it. We still have a game. I'll continue to enjoy Raiders regardless. And I know a lot of you guys will as well. So I hope you guys all have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.